Some high-profile company joining Houston Independent School District this week as the state of Texas took over Fort Worth ISD. TEA Commissioner Mike Morath talking now.
Actually seen an increase in the number of chronically unacceptable campuses. Back in 2022, there were 8 multi-year academically unacceptable campuses. Today, there are 20. And even with some of the more recent improvements in the district, still only 34% of students in Fort Worth are meeting grade level. That is a full 16 percentage points below state average. It's way below the numbers in Dallas and Houston.
Morath using the progress achieved at Houston ISD as rationale for action in Fort Worth.
What has happened in Houston is probably the most significant academic improvement in the history of the United States.
There it is. Houston ISD has become the prototype, and detractors of Mike Miles have got to be apoplectic. Paul Castro.
Yeah, so people want to blame the commissioner. The commissioner is a person who's hired to do a job, and the job was defined by the legislature, and the legislature said you shall. It's not a may, it's a shall, meaning he has no choice in the matter. His responsibility is to uphold the state laws, and in so doing, Fort Worth ISD had an opportunity, just like Houston ISD had an opportunity to take dramatic measures if they wanted to stave off a state takeover. They decided that rather than hand off their low-performing school to another group, an 1882 partnership, and say, look, we're going to peel this off and we get to live to fight another day, they went another direction, and in going that direction, they welcomed this to happen. This is just one of those things where it's unfortunate, and it's a political matter. And so the way to solve that is through your legislative process. And this is where we are. I'm not saying it's a great thing, but what I can say is it's hard to argue with the results, and there is a template, and that template is one that school districts can choose to go out, bring in, and try to do without all of the political drama.
Chris Tritico, Morath says Houston ISD is now the gold standard.
Yeah, and so when you look at the A through F system on the TEA webpage, and I've been saying this all along, that what they've done is the system now says on the webpage that the rating system stays the same for 5 years, but they manipulate the numbers per student. In other words, the score that a student has to get is dropped every year per student per district. And so they don't tell you how the score drops per year and how many students it drops per year. So they manipulate each district's numbers, and they don't tell you how. So this drastic rise in HISD has been manipulated by TEA, but we don't know how because they won't tell us.
All right, Holly, you want to pile in here for a second?
Sure, and I'm glad Paul brought up the issue of it being a kind of a political issue, because a lot of people blamed it on Republicans and blamed it on Governor Abbott when it was Harold Dutton who said publicly that he's the one that had the idea that the state should come in and intervene when you have schools that are not teaching their kids to read, write, and do math on grade level. Interestingly enough, in comparison with Houston, what we saw this week in Fort Worth is we saw the Fort Worth mayor come out, talk about it in a very calm tone, talk about how they were working with the TEA and with the district. The district has been cooperating with the TEA, whereas here in Houston, we saw lawsuits. We saw the mayor coming out. We saw press conferences about how this was just a terrible thing. We saw all kinds of protests that we did not see when we had generations of students coming through Houston ISD who could not read, write, or do math, and are burdened with that for the rest of their lives.
I have a quick explanation. What was going on? Why was there protests? Because it was cutting off the money from the Democratic insiders. That's what it was about.
All right, we're going to leave it there. We can talk more in overtime. Up next, now it's your turn. A ballot measure giving Texas judges added authority to keep predators behind bars pending trial. It's up for a statewide vote.